The woman at the heart of this issue carries stories that defy belief. Despite her outward appearance as a devout leader, Mariam Soulakiotis hid a sinister truth. For decades, driven by an insatiable desire for wealth and power, she deceived those around her. As her reign came to an end, she was captured and labeled a serial killer nun. This isn't a horror movie plot, but a chilling tale of a series of deeply unfortunate and true events. Mariam Soulakiotis' humble beginnings in Greece in 1983 painted a picture of a girl living in poverty and toiling on her family's farm, with dreams far beyond her bleak existence. Despite daily hardships, Marina, as she was then known, harbored ambitions of wealth and influence. Some accounts suggest that she sought factory work to support her family, enduring the misfortunes that came with it. However, her determination remained unshaken, fueling her ambition to rise above her circumstances. With limited avenues for advancement, Mariam made a pivotal decision to pursue a path that promised to fulfill her grand aspirations. She chose to become a nun within the Old Calendarist Church. A chance encounter with Matthew Karptakis, a monk disillusioned with Orthodox teachings, led Mariam to co-found a new monastery. Renamed Mariam Soulakiotis, she became a key figure in the emerging movement, eventually rising to prominence alongside Archbishop Matthew. Their collaboration resulted in the establishment of the Virgin Monastery in the Noopur Mountains, a project ostensibly dedicated to spiritual endeavors but secretly driven by financial motives to support the Old Calendarist cause. Mariam's skills in acquiring vast tracts of land remained shrouded in mystery, sparking speculation about the source of her wealth. Despite outward appearances of piety and devotion, Mariam concealed her true intentions and manipulated her followers' faith to serve her hidden agenda. As Mariam's influence within the movement grew, so did her penchant for deceit and manipulation. What seemed like a noble endeavor to uphold traditional beliefs turned into a dark spiral of violence and extortion. The faith that once united their followers became a facade masking Mariam's descent into moral corruption. In hindsight, the fall of the new calendarist movement could have been avoided had its leaders remained true to their declared convictions. Instead, Mariam's betrayal of trust left a trail of devastation, tarnishing the legacy of faith and integrity she once claimed to embody. Mary embarked on the arduous task of building a monastery from scratch, especially with limited funds, which seemed like a miracle to her. None of the nuns had significant wealth, raising questions about their resource origins, a mystery concealing a truth soon to be unveiled. The Monastery of Our Lady in Pine City was marketed as a haven for those afflicted with tuberculosis, attracting crowds seeking refuge from the deadly disease. Despite lacking proper medical facilities, Mary eagerly welcomed the influx of patients, accommodating many individuals in single rooms and ensuring medical access only for those willing to sign death certificates. This error might have gone unnoticed if not for Mary's dark actions. As Mary basked in the limelight of the new ecclesiastical calendar, the advancing age of Archbishop Matthew saw him relinquish his duties towards his young disciple. Amidst Matthew's journey marked by fasting and isolation, Mary's authority within the monastery grew unchecked. Her persistence, once seen as a strength, turned into tyranny when she took control. On Matthew's deathbed, Archbishop Christoph from Florina sought reconciliation, but Mary's strong intervention rejected it, an early sign of her insatiable thirst for power. With Matthew's death in 1939, Mary ascended to the position of abbess, continuing her relentless quest for dominance. Clad in the traditional attire of high-ranking Eastern Orthodox nuns, Mary wielded her newfound authority to amass wealth by any means necessary. Her transformation from a firm leader to a ruthless manipulator marked a turning point, earning her the media title Mother Rasputin, a fitting description of her manipulative tactics and insatiable greed for money. Donations to charities are often viewed as acts of benevolence, but when driven by fear, as in Mary's case, they take on a darker hue. Mary's crimes extended beyond illegal imports. A series of scandals emerged, particularly in her attempts to treat tuberculosis patients by manipulating vulnerable families. She amassed wealth by forcing them to donate their properties under the guise of salvation. Those who resisted faced brutal confinement and torture in basement cells, where many died of starvation. Greek authorities estimated Mary's involvement in 27 murders, including the tragic fate of Mr. and Mrs. Bacca, members of the secret church. Mrs. Bacca's theological studies with Mary took a horrifying turn when she tried to leave, resulting in her imprisonment and eventual death in a tuberculosis-infested cell. Her husband suffered a similar fate, remaining isolated until his death. The Panagiotopoulos couple met a similar end, lured into Mary's grasp with promises of forgiveness. They were detained, starved, and ultimately disposed of. Their tragic story echoed countless others under Mary's brutal reign. Tuberculosis patients, like Miss Macaco, sought refuge at the Virgin Mary Monastery, only to find themselves abandoned without medical care, left to wither away in agonizing rooms. Even within the monastery's walls, dissent was met with brutal punishment, exemplified by the lethal penalty imposed on Sister Diotet for daring to challenge Mary's authority. Mary's malevolent understanding of power and wealth came at the cost of countless lives, each a testament to the depths of her corruption. Behind a facade of love and spirituality lurked a monstrous figure. Those who dared to defy Mary faced severe consequences. Sister Maria, who worked closely with Mary, faced brutal beatings for her vocal opposition, leaving her unrecognizable upon arrival at the hospital. Despite medical efforts, the severity of her injuries from Mary's bite was insurmountable. Sister Maria succumbed to her wounds, freed from the tyranny of the Gregorian Church. Although the Church vehemently denied Mary's involvement in the murders, testimonies painted a grim picture of Mary's methods, luring unsuspecting victims to the monastery, promising salvation only to exploit and torture them. Facing trial for 7 murders, authorities believed Mary was responsible for at least 27 deaths, committed through starvation, neglect, and brutal punishments disguised as penance. Mary's absolute authority, coupled with societal respect for religious figures, shielded her from scrutiny, allowing her to continue her nefarious schemes. She orchestrated financial fraud and coercion under the guise of religious devotion. The tide turned when an anonymous tip prompted a police investigation into Mary's illegal activities. Allegations of secret property transfers and torture emerged, shedding light on the monastery's dark practices. As more victims came forward, they detailed their experiences under Mary's rule. In 1949, Christos Spyros sought help from Greek authorities to find his missing daughter, Simi. He traced her to the monastery and uncovered Mary's manipulation, which had convinced him to relinquish properties worth thousands of dollars. Rescuing Samila marked a turning point, leading to intense scrutiny of Mary's criminal enterprise. As the investigation deepened, the extent of Mary's cruelty became apparent. The monastery concealed a system of abuses, where victims faced solitary confinement and coercion. Survivors recounted Mary's relentless pursuit of wealth, forcing them to surrender their properties under duress. Mary's downfall became imminent as mounting evidence exposed her heinous deeds. No longer protected by religious authority, she faced full justice. Her once impenetrable facade crumbled under the weight of truth and accountability. On the fateful night of December 4, 1950, while Mariam slept in her luxurious room, law enforcement officers descended on the convent grounds. A team of 85 officers, accompanied by a prosecutor, a judge, and a forensic doctor, conducted a meticulous search fueled by suspicions of Mariam's heinous crimes. Throughout the night, they rescued 36 children, forcibly removing them from the nuns' clutches. Additionally, they discovered numerous elderly women, malnourished and half-naked, confined in basement cells. Initially, the prosecution charged Mariam with illegal importation of olive oil and tires, uncertain if they could secure convictions for her countless other crimes. As the trial began, the prosecutor left no stone unturned. Mariam was accused of a series of crimes spanning a decade: murder, fraud, forgery, extortion, and torture. Throughout the proceedings, Mariam maintained a facade of piety adorned with Orthodox icons, invoking the name of Saint Matthew as her defender against what she considered diabolical betrayals. In the courtroom, Mariam appeared as a greedy, ruthless specter, unaffected by the gravity of her actions. Despite attempts to portray her actions as decisive religious deeds, the prosecution painted a stark picture of her ruthless exploitation and manipulation. 3 separate trials followed, spanning years, with convictions gradually accumulating. Mariam faced a total sentence of 14 years in prison, spending part of that time behind bars before succumbing to illness at the age of 71. The tale of Mariam Soulakiotis is a story of the choice between faith and humanity. While some remained steadfast in their belief in her innocence, overwhelming evidence highlighted the depths of her corruption. Her relentless pursuit of wealth and power left a trail of destruction, underscoring the fragility of faith in the face of brutality.